Hello, it's Troy Francis, and this is another Troy Francis podcast. Welcome to the show. I hope that you are okay. I hope that you've had a good weekend, as good a weekend as you could possibly have had under these very strange circumstances that we find ourselves in. And yes, of course, I'm going to be talking more about coronavirus in the show today. I'm going to be talking about coronavirus and whether or not it's going to affect the dating marketplace and also, quite frankly, life forever. Whether this is a sea change and everything is going to change from this point onwards. So that is really the topic of today's show. But before I get into that, just a couple of reminders, parish notices, etc., if you like. First off, please do subscribe to this channel. It really helps me when people hit the subscribe button and also the notifications bell as well, so that you're kept up to date when I release a new video. And there's going to be videos coming up every day this week on various different topics. So do hit that notifications bell and also hit subscribe. Really do appreciate it. Also, in terms of my dating advice, my advice about the sexual marketplace, etc., now is really a great time to do a deep dive into all this stuff, particularly if you're sitting at home, maybe you're self-isolating or whatever. Action out in the field may be somewhat limited at the moment, but you can certainly brush up on your skills, you can certainly learn, you can understand more about the market out there, how things go down in terms of gender relations, and you can really learn some serviceable advice too about how to get the best possible deal in that marketplace, if you like, by reading my books in the Renegade Dating Blueprint bundle. Now that bundle, which has got 11 of my books in it, including How to Be an Arsehole, 7 Laws of Seduction, and many more, is currently priced at just $39. Now, I was going to take it down. I will certainly be looking at that price as and when we come out of this current situation, because frankly it is pretty low. But I wanted to leave it up for the moment because I know that a lot of people are, at home, they don't have a lot to do, and if you are interested in this space, if you like what I have to say, then I would encourage you to jump on that offer. The full value of the books really is $250. So at the moment, you can get all 11 for $39. So the link's below. Do look into that. If you've got some time in your hands and you want to understand more about the dating marketplace globally and how best to, get the best results that you can. And also do subscribe to my email list. Now, the link is below. The good thing about the email list is I'm emailing every day, Monday to Friday. And throughout this crisis, throughout this situation, I've been emailing updates relating to the virus, but also just relating to my normal topics, which are, dating game, self-development, a bit of business and stuff in there as well, for living that self-actualized apex male lifestyle. So do jump on board with that, because, we all hear about deplatforming and stuff these days, people's YouTube channels getting taken down, all that kind of thing. You never really know what's going to happen. But if you get onto my email list, then you are kept up to date, and I will still be able to get content out to you, regardless of what happens out there in the wider world. So, and that's absolutely free. You get a free article from me Monday to Friday. So there really is no downside to that. I put a few commercial messages in there, but I'm not spamming you the whole time with sales messages. I do try to really give value there. So do jump on board with that. And finally, if you want more from me in the way of videos and advice and so on, then do go to my VIP members area, which is on Patreon. Again, the link is below. There are 3 tiers that you can join. Tier 1 is just general support. Tier 2, the VIP members area, gives you access to 2 additional videos per week. And Tier 3 gives you all of that, plus Renegade Dating Blueprints included, all those 11 books, and you also get a monthly group call with me as well. So jump on board with that. Anyway, that's enough of all of that, enough of the commercial messaging. Let's get down to business and have a chat about Corona and whether this is going to change everything forever. Now, this really is a continuation of what I was talking about with my fellow Rule Zero cohorts at the weekend, we were talking about the effects that coronavirus is having on the dating marketplace. And what seems to be happening, what we are hearing about, what we're getting some reports about, and what we are perhaps seeing with our own eyes, is that the dating marketplace is becoming more, how can I put it, traditional, in the sense that because we are in this sort of crisis type situation, and as I've said before, as I said last week, it does feel rather like, almost like a wartime situation, doesn't it? That's probably the nearest thing that you would get to describing what we're facing at the moment is a quasi-warlike situation. And as a result of that, people are, we think, starting to reevaluate their roles in society, but also in dating as well. And the upshot of that is that we are getting reports that girls are starting to appreciate the more providery type aspects of masculinity a little bit more than the alpha Chad, in inverted commas, shiny, bright new thing stuff that they were appreciating just a couple of weeks ago. So the argument is basically, now, if you are the quote-unquote classic beta male provider chump, end quotes, then you're going to do well in this particular scenario, because women are looking for stability, they're looking for security, they're looking for a strong, reliable, dependent man to hold on to look after their provisioning and so on and so forth. By the way, I don't mean that they are necessarily looking for financial support. I mean, that could be part of it, because obviously people's jobs are in the balance. There's a lot of economic worry for sure. But I think more psychologically, on a subconscious level, what we're saying here is that women are starting to be more drawn to those things that perhaps even a few weeks ago would have seemed a bit boring and, not very sexy, not very exciting. And now all of a sudden, just a dude with a stable income and a car and the ability to buy food and, all that kind of stuff is starting to look very appealing, because, as in times of trouble, they want something to rely on, if you like. And I think that's some song lyrics, isn't it? We all need something to rely on, or whatever however that song goes. But yeah, so that's the overall picture that we're getting, and you see a lot of anecdotal evidence for this on Twitter, on other platforms. Guys are saying, "Oh, isn't the market's changing?" Blah blah blah, and. Look, I've got no doubt that is true, because I think what we are seeing is globalized fear, not without reason. I'm not saying that that this isn't a serious situation, but we are seeing globalized fear, uncertainty, and so on. And so it's only human that people are going to, on a very primal level, people are going to be concerned for their security. They're going to be concerned for, where's the next meal coming from? Who's going to look after, protect my offspring, all of these kinds of things. And I don't want to blow this up too much into fanning the flames of fear, but, these are volatile times, and there are, potentially things that could happen which are not going to be very nice. And yes, of course, people are going to be thinking, well, okay, so where do I best put myself? And women are going to be thinking, so, who do I want to be with? Who's going to best help me to get through what could be a very difficult period? And, that's only natural. That's absolutely to be expected. It's only human. But, and this is my big but, and, please, by all means, I could be wrong about this. Things may turn out very differently. But my suspicion is this. I think that, as dire as things may look at the moment, in some quarters, we are going to get through this. We are going to see this start to be contained. We are going to see it start to recede as time goes on. And I believe that when that starts to happen, we are going to see things start to revert back to normal. Now, you might say, okay, well, there won't be a new normal. There won't be a new normal because, things have. This is so. The effects of this have been so widespread that we're not going to return to normal. I kind of think we will. I think what you're going to see is this disruption going on for a period of time, and then we're going to see a reversion back to the norm. Now, of course, people are going to pay lip service to what's happened. Of course, we are the people. Hopefully everyone listening to this and hopefully everyone gets through this healthy and well, but there is going to be sorrow for people who have suffered through this and everything else. But I think human beings are, I think we forget very quickly, and I think we're just going to revert back to the norm as and when we come through this. And so what that's going to mean for the dating marketplace, what that's going to mean for game, is that really things are going to go back to how they were before. And actually, the pendulum may swing even further, because as I've been saying, and as I said in a video last week, I think what we're going to see here is an explosion, actually, in the dating marketplace as a result of what's happening now. Because already, and in the UK, we're a few days into self-isolation. It looks like they're going to tighten up the rules for that this week, probably, but, we're pretty early on in the game. I know in Italy and I think Spain and other places, people have been self-quarantining or been quarantined for longer. But, we are fairly early on in the game here. And I think what we're going to see is that as we go on, as this goes on for longer, people are going to start to get really, really frustrated, because they're just going to get fed up with not having those freedoms, with not being able to do the things that they were able to do before. And so I think when, in the end, this does start to recede, and when freedoms are restored, people are starting to go out again and everything else, there's going to be that huge pent-up, just mass of sexual energy, frankly, where people are just going to have been very frustrated. Angry is probably the wrong word, because obviously there's nobody here really to be angry at. This is a virus that is manifesting itself. But I think people are going to just get fed up really with the status quo, and they're going to want to go out and rebel against it. And if I was a betting man, I think when that starts to happen, are women going to be going for the, in this celebration of free sexuality, when this thing finally lifts, are we going to see the boring beta chump provider type figures getting the spoils of that, or are we going to see the exciting alpha Chad type figures reaping the benefits? And I would suspect it's going to be the latter. Really, don't you? I think that's how it's going to go. Because look, as and when we do come out of this, and, as I say, I hope everyone listening to this and everybody really does get through this, with good health and everything else, when we finally do come through this, I think we're going to see, frankly, quite a Dionysian period where it gets very decadent, degenerate for a while, and people just celebrate the freedoms that have been kind of taken from them, really, as a result of this virus. And that really leads into the next thing that I wanted to talk about, which is individuality. And I want to talk about that because it's always been something that's incredibly important to me personally, and also at the level of this brand and the content that I put out. If there's one thing that I've always talked about over the last few years when I've been doing this, is personal freedom. It's an absolute central tenet, really, of everything that I believe and stand for, and and what I'm effectively doing with all of this stuff, with the dating advice, with any of the personal brand business advice that I've done, and all that stuff, is trying to help other guys fundamentally to retain freedom and to have options in life. And the very sad thing that we're seeing at the moment with this virus and the knock-on effects of it is that those freedoms are being taken away, albeit temporarily. So we now can't really go out, we can't really meet up in groups, travel is pretty much off the cards. all of the good things about, having options in terms of going out and meeting lots of different people has sort of been taken away. We are effectively confined to our homes in many, many places. And that is a terrible thing. That's a very dispiriting thing. Now, in the UK, they've stopped short of mandating, making it, the law that people have to stay in their houses or flats, apartments. But it looks like something like that's probably coming down the line, because at the moment people are still going out and meeting in groups, and that's what they want to discourage. So, and we've seen what's happening in other countries in Europe and cities in the States and states in the States and so on. Effectively we are getting into a situation where the whole of the world is on lockdown and will be for a period of time. And I think that one thing that has to come out of this, well, certainly for me anyway, I don't know what you think. I mean, let me know in the comments below, please. But I think one thing that has to come out of this is a renewed appreciation for the freedoms that we do have. Now, people will complain about governments and about regimes and all the rest of it. And yes, I mean, I'm not saying, of course, there are some places where that's very valid. But look, in the West, by and large, we can kind of do what we want most of the time. We can travel around, we can do the work that we want to do, we can go and meet the people we want to meet. We have a degree of freedom, or a large degree of freedom. And in this situation where that is being taken from us, I for one miss it greatly, and I really feel, I hope that you do too. I hope that you can see really the negative effects of this, just in terms of our personal freedoms and how much we have to value those. And I think it's people have talked about this as being a reset for the economy, for whatever else you want to read into it. But I think if there is a reset happening here, for us, it should be on the level of the psychological. It should be on the level of the individual. My reset is to think, okay, so now my freedoms have been taken away from me largely for this period of time. That sucks. So on the basis of that, and on the basis of my renewed enthusiasm for those freedoms, how do I want to live the rest of my life? How do I want my life to look? And I think when you have something taken away from you, of course, you tend to want it more, and you start to realize, well, look, this is, I've had a taste of what it's like to lose those freedoms, and I never want to lose them again. Now, what always surprises me in this space is guys who are collectivists, really, who are arguing for very traditional lifestyle, return to traditional values, a turning away from globalization. I'll get some comments for that, but you know what I'm saying. These people who want to effectively turn the clock back in a way. And what we are seeing now, and I said this on Twitter the other day, is, you could argue, is almost like an advanced form of collectivism. This is what it's like when you lock a society down, when you tell people, no, you don't have your freedoms anymore, you can't do just what you want to do, which is what I always argue for. You've got to do this, you've got to live in a very uniform way, you have to follow these rules, etc., etc. And for me, and by the way, I'm still thinking around these ideas, so I'm perhaps not articulating this in the way that hopefully I'll be able to a bit further down the line. But for me, what this is making me think about is how amazing those freedoms are and how valuable they are and how we should hang on to them. And, I'm not talking now about protesting against the government or trying to change the laws of the land or anything like that. What I'm talking about is in our own individual lives, how much we have to appreciate the freedoms we have and how much we have to value them, treasure them, and use them. This is the important thing, and use them. It's ironic, isn't it, that you can sit somewhere for a long time and not really want to travel or anything like that, and then when you're told that you can't, then you start to think, oh God, if only I could have gone here, if only I could have gone there. Well, and I include myself in this as much as anybody else, if that's you, then when we do come out of this, you need to start to think, all right, how can I, now I've got the freedoms back, how can I use them? How do I want to see the rest of my life going? Of course, now, look, I'm not saying there won't be another outbreak of this. I'm not saying that, there won't be other situations when those freedoms are curtailed. But what I'm saying is, when we get them back, you need to seize that opportunity. You need to think, right, okay, so how do I want to live my life? Do I want to be sitting in this small town forever, or do I want to try something different? Do I want to be out on the road? Do I want to be traveling to different places, seeing different places? Because we can see now, through this situation, how fragile the freedom to do that is, how that can be taken away. You know, I'm just talking about travel here, but this applies within dating, within just the way that you live your life in general. You know, we have so many opportunities as free citizens within Western society, and I know people from different places are listening to this, and obviously results will vary depending on where you are, but you know what I'm saying, generally we do have these freedoms and we need to be thankful for them, and we need to exercise them. And and so as difficult as this period is, I think as I say, the reset has to be an internal one. The reset has to be thinking about yourself and how you want to come through this, how you want to act when we get through this. I wanted to say a little bit about conspiracy theories. I mean, maybe I could do a longer show on this. I'm seeing a lot of people talking about different conspiracies for why this is happening, how this virus came about, who spread it, all of these kinds of things. And you get people like the QAnon lot, and the reason I'm talking about this is that this has started to be promoted within the manosphere now, which I think is a very bad thing. I don't think we should be giving these people the time of day. I don't think it's something that should be brought into certainly any space that I'm part of, and I'm not part of the manosphere. The manosphere is basically a bunch of nutters who really believe some very, very odd things. But what it seems to me is, so there's this idea out there that's promoted by the QAnon people and others, is that the virus is a smokescreen, if you like. Not to say the virus isn't real, but the virus is kind of a smokescreen which is now being used so that President Trump can defeat the elites who are supposed to be involved in all this unpleasant, horrible stuff. And under the cover of this virus, there's going to be all these mass arrests and all the rest of it. I mean, you can look it up, guys. I'm not going to go too much into it because I don't really want to waste time on the show talking too much about it. But what I would say with things like that is, if you want to buy into conspiracy theories, then in general, it signals that you are somebody who wants a simple solution to what is a very complex world. And the funny thing about the Q stuff, the Q theories, is that what they're basically saying is, I want a father figure. I want, in this case, Trump, but I want this father figure to come in and sort everything out for me. And what you're saying when you buy into that kind of thinking is, I am a beta male. I am a lesser male, further down the hierarchy, and I'm just waiting and craving for my savior, for this big daddy, benevolent leader to stop all of the bad things happening and to start, and to clear all that away and to have good things happening in my life as well. You are effectively like a little baby crying out for its daddy, and that to me is just not the way to be as a man, as a self-actualized guy. And this leads back to the thing about freedom, because freedom for me is about individuality. And, we are born alone, we die alone, and, you have to be prepared in this life to deal with things, the cards as they are laid out in front of you. You have to deal with life on life's terms. And what worries me about these conspiracy guys is that not only are they clouding the issue, right, because we're in a very serious situation as it is. We don't need a load of BS, nut job, disinformation, frankly, spreading around and just confusing everybody, confusing the issue. That's not helping anybody, and it is rather underplaying the seriousness of this, by bringing all of these crazy theories into it, and it's not helping anybody. But secondly, it's signaling that you are somebody who needs a father figure to look after you, and that is not where you want to be. Where you want to be is somebody who is self-sufficient, self-actualized, unafraid to stare meaninglessness and randomness in the universe in the face and say, okay, I accept that, but I'm going to carry on anyway. And that really is at the root of individuality and freedom for me. You need freedom from herd thinking, even if that herd thinking is countercultural herd thinking. It's still herd thinking. Just because it's not the mainstream and it's countercultural, it doesn't mean it's not herd thinking. You're still buying into somebody else's narrative. And that is absolutely antithetical to my idea of individuality and freedom. And as I say, if this scenario has had one effect on me so far, it's in thinking very seriously about individuality and individual freedoms and really valuing those. And I would recommend anybody listening to this that you think the same thing, because look, I mean, when our individual freedoms are taken from us, it's not very nice. And, we have to realize that, and we have to just think about in our future how we actually want to live. And if that means you want to give up your job and you want to leave your wife or your partner and you want to go travel around the world for 6 months, then you've got to do that, because, let's face it, that can be snatched away from you very quickly, as we are seeing now. So ignore the crazy conspiracy theories, ignore all of the nonsense about, these things that are really just taking away from, we need clarity at this moment. We absolutely don't need disinformation. So get that out of your head. And just let's get through this. We are going to get through this. Try not to panic too much. Work on yourself, as I've said. But most importantly, use this as an opportunity to think about your life and to think about how you want to live your life going forward, and then let's all move forward in a positive way in order to achieve that. Okay, right, I'm going to leave it there for now. I won't go through all the announcements again, but do please subscribe to this channel. Grab Renegade Dating Blueprint for $39 below. And I hope that you've enjoyed this show. This is where my head's at the moment with this stuff. Obviously, I'm going to continue to talk about this as it progresses, and maybe my viewpoints will change, but this is a snapshot of what I'm thinking about it at the moment. I'm keen, obviously, to hear what you have to say, so if you're listening to this on YouTube, then do leave me a comment below. If you're listening on SoundCloud, then leave me a comment there as well, but please do head over to YouTube and support the channel, because that's really, really helpful to me at the moment. Okay, guys. I will speak to you again very soon. Look out for more video content this week, and we will chat again on this podcast in next week's episode. Bye-bye.